Grandpa's got your dinner tonight, okay?
Okay, I'll talk to him. Welcome, everybody, to the Shadowed City podcast. I am your host, Larry, and this is The Shadows Within. We got a few shows to go over. I just want to start off by saying tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, I will be interviewing pro wrestler Sophia Sword. It's going to be an awesome interview. I got my questions lined out and even go over some of her previous matches and matches that she has coming up. Stay tuned for that tomorrow. And now I got some shows for the eFed world to go over. For the GPW callouts, we had an Iron Man between Big T and Big Lou, which ended in a draw. We had Makoa Kokina versus Jaquil, with Makoa Kokina walking away victorious. Michael Link McIntyre versus Ronan Gage for the Gulf Coast Championship, with Michael Link McIntyre walking out the new champion. Carnage versus Buster Anderson in a title match where Buster Anderson retained his gold. Alpha versus Muerte El Guapo in a cage match where Muerte El Guapo walked away victorious. IZW Thunder, champion versus champion. Sonia Ortiz versus Sylvia Knight, with Sonia Ortiz walking away victorious. Angel Bryant versus Ms. D versus Lady Blue versus Madison King, with Lady Blue walking away victorious. The Ghost Jay Jin defended the IZW KO Championship against Duke Maine, with Jay Jin walking away victorious, retaining. This is for IZW Thunder, by the way, if I didn't say that. Kyle Burton and Lockjaw versus Tony Rose with Rusty Steele, with Kyle Burton and Lockjaw walking away victorious. Buster Anderson versus Muerte El Guapo in a cage match, with Muerte El Guapo walking away victorious. Fink versus Akane versus Jack Jackson versus a Luchador, with Jack Jackson walking away victorious. Nexus versus the Phantom Eddie Walker versus Big T, with Nexus walking away victorious. AJ Woods versus Johnny Superkicks, with Johnny Superkicks walking away victorious. International Championship, Frank Ortiz versus the champion Big Oos, with Big Oos retaining the gold. Now for IZW Beatdown, it was a tornado tag between Dirty Diana and Sonia Ortiz versus RFL and Madison Landon, with Madison Landon and RFL walking away victorious. Triple Threat Elimination, Luther Cross versus Big T versus AJ Woods, with AJ Woods walking away victorious. KO match, CJ Frost versus Primetime JoJo, with Primetime JoJo walking away victorious. Tornado tag, Red Wolves, Big Lou and John Robb versus Burton Babos and Butch Babos, with Red Wolves walking away victorious. Falls Count Anywhere Fatal 4-Way, Taryn Williams versus Reagan Anderson versus Jen versus Angelina, with Angelina walking away victorious. Frank Ortiz versus the champion Jay Jen for the IZW KO Championship, with Frank Ortiz walking out the new champion. Rusty Steele versus Kando Dragon, with Kando Dragon walking away victorious. Travell Daniel versus Alexander Colt versus the Gladiator Corey Bishop versus Gage Payton, with Alexander Colt walking away victorious. Royal Geniuses, Katie and Combat Genius versus Carter and Chase Goldman, with Katie and Combat Genius walking away victorious. Now for All-Star Pro, Season 4, Episode 6, Carlos Cruz versus Blackjack, with Blackjack walking away victorious. The Dangerous Alliance versus Rockstars, with Dangerous Alliance walking away victorious. Buster Anderson versus AJ Woods, with AJ Woods winning, but after Buster Anderson and Jay Smoke had a stare down. Amaya Bryant versus a mystery opponent, which turned out to be Whitney Winters, with Amaya Bryant walking away victorious. Grindhouse Championship, Jesse Harper versus the champion KD, with Jesse Harper walking out the new champion. Grand Prix number 1 contenders match between AJ Albright and Shan Leon, with AJ Albright walking away victorious. Suplexia versus Madison Outlaw, with Madison Outlaw walking away victorious. Rob Life versus Kabuki Dragon, with Kabuki Dragon walking away victorious. Rob Life walking away victorious. Larry Loco versus Damian Briggs, with Damian Briggs walking away victorious. All-Star Pro Apex Tournament Japan Tour Pile Driver, Jimmy Kane versus the Ghost Jay Jin, with Jimmy Kane advancing to the second round. Frank Ortiz versus Shinjo Prime, with Shinjo Prime, headed to the second round. Lil Devil versus Lonza Kazarian, with Lil Devil advancing to the second round. Alex Knight versus the Dog Rob Anderson, with Alex Knight advancing to the second round. Jimmy Kane versus Shinjo Prime, with Shinjo Prime advancing to the finals. Lil Devil versus Alex Knight, with Lil Devil advancing to the finals. Shinjo Prime versus Lil Devil, with Lil Devil walking out victorious and winning the tournament. All-Star Pro Pile Driver Season 4, Episode 5, Japan Tour. Dawn Wildside versus Rockstar Triz, with Dawn Wildside walking away victorious. Nina Schmidt versus Sonia Ortiz, with Sonia Ortiz walking away victorious. Montgomery Sherman versus Derek Sicario, with Derek Sicario walking away victorious. Adam Matthews versus Jay Monster, with Adam Matthews walking away victorious. Grindhouse Championship, RFL versus champion Rose Wilson, with Rose Wilson retaining the gold. Television Championship, the Savage John Robb versus the champion versus the champion Reese the Destroyer, with John Robb walking out the new champion. KCK versus Reagan Anderson walking out victorious. Lil Devil threw out promo, by the way. Ronan Reaper versus Big Lou, with Big Lou walking away victorious. Now we're going to go over ASW. The Dream versus Travis Turner, with Travis Turner walking away victorious. Big Bertha versus Juicy Badass, with Big Bertha walking away victorious. Akira Cho versus Miss Chen, with Akira Cho walking away victorious. ASW Triple Threat 2 out of 3. Ms. D versus Tina Rose versus Nikita Sakamoto, with Ms. D walking out victorious. ASW Rules, A-Dot versus Billy Barber, with Billy Barber walking away victorious. ASW 2 out of 3, No Weapons. Dimebag Dan versus the Savage John Robb, with Dimebag Dan walking away victorious. ASW 2 out of 3, No Weapons. Damian Briggs versus Big Dan, with Big Dan walking away victorious. Dominic Davino versus Talos versus the Ghost J Jin, with Talos walking away victorious. Tyson Storm versus Marcus Banks, with Tyson Storm walking away victorious. ASW Rules, Delia Hex and Delilah Hex versus Valerie Payne and Rebel Payne, with Team Hex walking out victorious. ASW Rules, Jay Smoke versus the Badass John Wigginton, with John Wigginton walking away victorious. Now for another ASW show. ASW Triple Threat 2 out of 3. Michael Russell versus Billy Barber versus a mystery opponent, which turned out to be Damian Briggs, with Billy Barber walking away victorious. Todd Wilson versus Dio Von Don. Todd Wilson walking away victorious. Fatal 4-Way. Paragon J Prince versus Josie Marie Jane versus Mina Shamrock versus Crazy Fox, with Josie Marie Jane walking out victorious. Tag Team Championships, ASW Rules, Mr. Bones and One Rich versus Jackson Wright and Oconee Blood Island, the champions for the Tag Championships, with Blood Island retaining the gold. ASW Rules, Tina Rose versus Rachel Blade, with Tina Rose walking away victorious. 5-way tables match, Baby Bone Crusher versus Kailana Wilson versus Angel Death versus Winter Storm versus Juicy Badass, with Angel Death walking out victorious. ASW 2 out of 3, No Weapons, Carmelo Justice versus Brock Carter, with Brock Carter walking away victorious. ASW Rules, No Weapons, Killian Bane versus Rhino, with Rhino walking away victorious. 6-way, Veronica LeBeau versus Amaya Bryant versus Madam Moon versus Big Bertha versus Cyborg Jackie versus Nikki Sixx, with Veronica LeBeau walking away victorious. TXT Intake now, which is hosted by Damian Briggs, of course. Homie Boy versus Seven Winters, with Homie Boy walking out victorious. Malcolm Watts versus J Money, with J Money walking away victorious. Grim Lord versus Andre Robinson, with Grim Lord walking away victorious. Alex Knight versus Inkslinger, with Inkslinger walking away victorious. Ms. D versus Big Bertha versus Black Dragon, with Black Dragon walking out victorious. Jay Prince versus Lil Devil, with Lil Devil walking out victorious. Dimebag Dan versus David Pope, with David Pope walking away victorious. And for the TXT Gladiator Championship, Crazy Larry versus the champion Psycho, with Psycho retaining the gold. And that is what I had to go over at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see y'all tomorrow for that interview, and I'll possibly be going live again today. But in that time, I hope everybody have a great day, good night, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever y'all may be, and peace out.